Welcome back to OTB AM. It is coming up now on 16 minutes after 9. Delighted to say that Anthony Moyles is with us. We're going to talk about Meath's success and keeping the Brendan Martin with the Royals for a second successive year, and what the future might mean for them as well, with potentially a breakup with the backroom team, and some of the players are going to be going to Australia. But just to start with Shane Walsh, because this has been a kind of a constant theme, and the comments have been kind of rocking all morning about this, and you've got experience about transferring between clubs and transferring into Dublin. What do you make about, first of all, Walsh's decision to go to Kilmacud?
I don't listen. Speaking from personal experience, I there's plenty of lads who would give me plenty of slagging about one club, one life, and all the rest of it. Kind of say, well, it's more like 7 or 8 clubs for me. But I think different situations occur, I suppose, during a player's career. It could be, personal reasons, as in he's living or working somewhere else. It could be an ambition thing. It could be a personality thing as regards a kind of something that happened within the club. So there's lots and lots of different factors going on. I think definitely the travel and all of that. When you're doing it for the county, and I would have seen this, there's been plenty of instances of it. There is then a kind of a thing of you're doing it for the county. Yes, there's more kind of, I suppose, set standards around where you're going to train and stuff like this. So you might be training in Dublin as well. Okay, now as you come closer to the championship, of course you're going to have to be down in Galway or wherever it is. But for the club situation, there may be a feeling where on his part, and listen, this is a speculation, that it's kind of like it's nearly a break, and he's kind of saying, do I nearly have to be going down all year round type thing? I am living and working in Dublin now. It's so much easier for me. I can give a better level of commitment to it, because even though you'd say, he doesn't have to go down for club training, if he's not there, the rest of the players are saying, well, where is he? Okay, he's a standout player, but you still need to be there, and you still probably want to be there, and it just can get draining. He's, what is he, 29, 30 years of age now, so he's probably playing for the club since he was, come out of minor. So it can get to you, and I suppose it's a situation where he may also be, I'd say he's the ambitious type, and he's probably looking at it and saying, you know what, Kilmacud, like anyone who comes out of Dublin, is generally in the mix for an All-Ireland title, so he's probably saying, could I win an All-Ireland club?
His feeling might be he's the missing piece. You take a bit of pressure. Paul Mallion was injured for the tail end of last year, which really affected them, but even I remember watching some of their Leinster Championship games, and Puerrington put a real lock onto Mannion. It worked out for him in the second half of that Leinster semi-final, but generally he was tightly marked. You put Walsh there, good luck trying to double stop both of them.
Yeah, and Kilmacud are an interesting club, because I moved from Meath into Dublin, and I transferred to St Oliver Plunkett's, who had a very, very good, strong team at the time. We got to a county final, and we lost it to St Bridget's. But Kilmacud, the standard was very, very high. And I remember remarking to lads, obviously even still in the Meath panel, that the standards that were involved and some of the stuff that was going on within the club scene in Dublin was as good, if not better, than what was happening with ourselves at the time. So they had started to raise the bar within club level from early on in Dublin. So you had Kilmacuds, the Ballybones, Ballymuns, Vincent's, obviously, Oliver Plunkett's were very, very strong, Lucan were coming. So you had all of those teams, but Kilmacud generally, bar one or two, they generally recruited from within the kind of parish, if you know what I mean. They weren't really a club that kind of really, threw out the net to see who they could get.
Not like, say the name, maybe Parnell's would have got for the amount of external players.
Yeah, well, that was a different, I suppose, there was plenty of money knocking around at that stage because of what they did with the club itself and the grounds and all that kind of stuff, and there was probably just a grab all. But certainly, this kind of idea that, these Dublin teams are out there and they're kind of, nearly on LinkedIn trying to get lads in, I don't think that's necessarily the truth. I think when you have a fella who's working and living in Dublin, I'm not exactly sure what he does, right, but say you're getting off at 5 or 6 o'clock, your employer is obviously also going, you know what, pal, you're working here for me, you head down to Galway 3 or 4 times, and I have no problem with that, you're a senior inter-county player, but when you start asking me for time off to go play for a junior or intermediate or a senior club down in Galway, and you're leaving here at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, that starts to get a little bit kind of burdensome for some employers, and some employers don't really give a fiddlers about GAA, so there's loads of little.
For a PE teacher, I think that's what
he's which?
He's going to become a PE teacher.
Okay, well then,
I'd say most likely though he's a job as well, because he did mention in the statement that he was working and living within Dublin. So I'm guessing it's not just.
Yeah, but look, you know what? A lot of it, I think a lot of it, when it boils down to it, and certainly I know from my situation, I was playing with a the local junior team. We won the junior championship in Meath, went up into Meath, and unfortunately we kind of went back down into it. And that was a band of brothers. It was just one team. We were kind of like a splinter team from Dunboyne, St. Peter's and St. Paul's underage, and then Dunboyne or St. Peter's, and we were St. Paul's. But myself and my brother Barry was on the Meath junior team at the time. I was trying to break into the seniors, and I suppose the conversation was had with all the clubs and all the players and all of our teammates of, well, look lads, these are the standards we want to get to. Where are you going to be? And the boys were saying, well, listen, we can't train X amount of nights, we're doing this, we're starting families. So there was a kind of we went with the blessing of the club and transferred, and we transferred for ambition. We wanted to win championships, which we did. So look, Will, there's lots and lots of different factors, and I think you can't just kind of throw stuff at it and say he's trying to this. Like, I can guarantee you this much, it's definitely not a kind of resource or money situation. That's a guarantee, because I know lots of these clubs have, like Kilmacud are a big club, but Kilmacud they run that club like a machine, and the amount of money that's required within that club just to keep the club going and to be able to facilitate all the members and all the juveniles and everything else. So I can guarantee there's nothing like that going on. So is it ambition? Is it the travel? I don't know, but you know what? It's a horrible situation, and I think it's.
Did
you
meet any resistance when you were trying to pull off one of your transfers?
Yeah, well, when I went from, I was with Blackhall Gales when we won a championship. I was with them for a number of years. The team kind of started to break up. The manager, Leo Turley, had finished up. We had got to a final. We lost the final to Dunboyne, and I suppose it was kind of coming to an end, just an end of a journey, really. And Dunboyne would have been my parish and where I kind of originally played, my underage stuff, both hurling and football. And I went to go back to Dunboyne because actually, funnily, myself and my brother Barry, we tried to transfer to Dunboyne after St. Paul's. This is a long story.
We come as a package, so.
Yeah, we come as a package. But anyway, we were stopped, so we weren't allowed to go. And you know what? That is not a nice situation, because the reason that was given to me was, well, look, how would we feel if we played Dunboyne in the championship next year and you're lined out against us midfield? And I would say that's a very valid argument. But I was also saying, but if I don't line out for Dunboyne, I'm not going to line out for you, so I'm going somewhere else, because at the age I was, I think I was getting close to 30, I couldn't take just a year out, So I transferred into Dublin because that was the only move I could make. I couldn't transfer to another Meath team, so it was either play for Blackhall Gales, don't play at all, or move somewhere else. So this is the situation that Shane Walsh finds himself in, and it's not a great situation because he has lots of friends, he has lots of family, he has lots of teammates who are obviously still involved in the club, which I had with Blackhall, great people.
Keen to go back and play for them again, he said that already.
Yeah, so you don't want to burn bridges, and I think if anyone puts their hand up, they're not just doing this on a whim. They've thought about it long and hard, and I think the committee need to sit down and kind of really think, actually, you know what, yes, we may be losing them, and I see some of the quotes saying, think of the children, kind of idea. At the end of the day, the club is not just one man, and even though it's Shane Walsh or whoever it is, the club is the club, and the club will have to be there and will have to flourish when Shane Walsh is well gone. He could be finished in a couple of years, I don't know, but he's at the peak of his powers now. He has an ability to go and possibly win, as I say, an All-Ireland Club Championship, and I think to try and stop him now is going to cause a really, really nasty vibe, and I can imagine locally it's causing probably a lot of angst.
Yeah, Meath going back to back, Moylesy as well. Fantastic achievement. The last 5 years have been remarkable. Going to All Irelands of different hues over the last 5 seasons.
Yeah.
Coming out of the intermediate, now going back to back at senior level, backing up the success of last year and showing it wasn't a one-off either. And a very impressive performance in the final, both defensively with the way they locked Kerry down, particularly in the second half. Bit of adversity, going 1-2 down early on and having to come back, and then having the afterburners to just finish the game out in the end as well. I'm sure you have to be very happy with the way they performed.
It's like I went into the match. That's I brought my 2 girls in, and they're only young. So the first kind of 20 minutes was me feeling 400 million questions about the crows, the swans, not the swans, the seagulls,
yeah.
The president, the grass. What colour are Meath? The usual stuff. When am I getting my hot dog? Which they didn't get again, by the way. But. No, you know what? I actually got quite emotional at the end of the game watching it, because there was an enormous crowd there for Meath. Absolutely fantastic support. It just shows you how hungry the county is for success. And I know I said this last year, but it's. and they're an amazing team, I think, because not only have they captured the hearts of and minds of Meath people, but I think they've captured an awful lot of support around the country, which is, I was kind of scratching my head over the last few days. I was thinking, is it the underdog kind of thing that they came from, obviously down the lower divisions and came up, where they have come from 4 or 5 years ago. But I honestly think that it's just it's the way they play, and it's obviously the way the ethos that they have within the team. Like, I mean, they're so honest. There is no showmanship. There's no jumping on the ground. There's no kind of gamesmanship. They're just honest. They take it all. Like, I mean, they had some really tricky decisions go against them, I thought, in the first 10 or 15 minutes. I don't know the intricacies of the tackle in ladies football. I don't think anyone knows, to be honest, but I was kind of scratching my head at some of the frees that were going against them, and you could see they were getting frustrated.
I think some of the players get frustrated about it too. A few years ago, Camogie changed around a bit and allowed a little bit more physicality. Even as a viewer and like talking to a few other former ladies football players, they say it's been a frustration for years.
The comment I think Vicky's comment after the game is, this is the biggest talking point for me, and she's on about the move. It's a bit more simple in terms of what you can and can't do over there. I think there's a lot of ambiguity around what a tackle is in ladies football at the moment. And this idea of non-contact, which I think is absolute nonsense.
Well, you were there. The decision when she got carded was booed in the stadium.
Yeah, it was booed. But even so, Meath started off nervous. But I definitely think they're obviously, like, I heard Mick Bohan, the Dublin manager, kind of, tongue in cheek. He was saying, Meath have brought an extra level of physicality to it, and maybe teams. So I don't like. Meath have a kind of a very much. Obviously a counter-attacking style, okay? But once you go near that pocket and once you go into the scoring zone, they swarm you and they try to get the ball off you, and they did that extremely well against Kerry. They frustrated Kerry completely. But out around the middle, they obviously have fast break and runners, and I don't know, so some of the frees were kind of, you're going, is that a tackle? It was just a hand in, was that just a leg? And I can only imagine, as frustrating as it was for us watching it, you could see in the pitch the kind of players were kind of going, well, and I'm not even sure the poor old referee even has clear guidelines on what exactly
if you read in more of the reference, like we had Vicky Wall on not that long ago on OTB AM. It was the first time I chatted with her. She's a very, very good media performer, and Eamon Murray is kind of almost more like, I'm going to say exactly what I think, and he says after the game, I wouldn't want that. You'd only put the players off. Parents wouldn't allow their kids to play the game, and I find this a really intriguing debate. So I don't really agree with him here. I think we're talking about the nuances here of, the sexes, basically, where we can't allow, women's football to be as aggressive as the men, but it's better for that aggression as well. Vicky is the player she is because of the way she plays. So where is this debate going to go?
Well, I think, I'm not going to get into an equality debate here, absolutely. I'm definitely not going to go into those murky waters. But the simple thing, you watch the Euro finals at the weekend, right, the ladies, and you watch the GAA. My wife plays basketball, and I remember the first basketball game I went to, I couldn't believe the physicality of it. I was going, Jesus, you wouldn't see this in a men's senior match. Like, there was like plenty of it. And basketball is essentially meant to be a non-contact sport, but there's loads going on, and quite right. Now, maybe it's not at the standard where it is in the States. She's originally from the States, but like, even she would say back there's still loads of contact. You have to use your body. So in GAA, it's very, very difficult, Johnny. If I'm running at you and I change my angle, which Vicky Wall does very, quite really, really well, and she bounces off her left foot and comes into you, like,
what are you going to do?
What are you going to do? Do you put your hands down? Do you just let her brush by you? Of course your hand's going to come out, or whatever it is. You're going to try and get your body in front of her. And obviously teams have kind of not targeted her, but teams have realised that what she does is she comes around on the loop and comes onto the ball fast. So teams have said, well, we can't stop her when she gets the ball, so let's stop her at source. And as the stakes go higher in sport, as the S&C goes higher in the ladies' football, because, by the way, the conditioning of both teams, but especially Meath, was unbelievable.
What's the point of this if you don't have contact?
Correct. And I think the girls would say, no one wants, you're not asking for anything bananas, but, girls are going to get conditioned. Because, by the way, when you go to the AFLW, I watched some of the highlights, last week. I was kind of saying, listen, I want to get into this, and really, what is the draw for some of these girls to go, because anyway, it's a very physical game. It's a very
over
physical
20
game.
now over there from Ireland, like 23 or something like that.
Yeah, and you know what, Johnny, I'm scratching my head. Like, women's football in Ireland has never been as good as it is now. Now, I don't know why that has occurred. like relative to the Dublin teams and the Cork teams of the dominance of the last 10
There's
or
probably no
15
harm in
years.
the fact that first time since 2003 neither have been in the final. It opens the
Yes,
democracy.
it does. And
well.
probably I saw someone, I can't remember which girl said, you know, there was probably, it could have been Cora or someone else said there's 5 or 6 teams who could potentially win it next year. So like the men's thing, the playing field, because the standards have improved, and you can obviously see that there's work going in at S&C levels. You talk about Colin O'Rourke, he's probably going to take 2 or 3 of that backroom team. So in other words, the backroom team aren't just made up of a bunch of hams, they're made up of quality people, right? So you end up with a situation where the standards are improving. Obviously the standards around the teams are improving. You would hope the resources around those are improving as regards expenses, and we can go there again, but all of those different things, because they deserve everything, that as it should be on a same level playing field. But the conditioning, all of those different things. So as girls are improving, as the conditioning levels are improving, as the game is turning into a much better spectacle with a lot more skill, a lot more ability and all that, well then the physicality thing is a natural thing that will come in, because there is no way to play 15 on 15 in such a fast moving sport now without physicality to come into it. So the frustration there between players, between referee and between supporters, that probably has to be decided upon, I would imagine, by rule makers within the LGFA, and say, right, we actually have to define what a tackle is here, because there was a lot of head scratching, because to be fair to the referee, I thought she was blowing everything, and then she just kind of said, she must have got a word in the air, and then it was kind of like, actually we're just going to let everything go now, you know, because, and then it actually did become, because the amount of whistle blowing in the first 10-15 minutes. But the Australian, and I know we were chatting about Vicky, and like I'm kind of, I am a little perturbed about the fact that at this time someone or a body is allowing the best talent to leave, you know.
That's a killer to me. I mean, like, losing Orla Lally and Vicky was a huge blow. Even if they were talking on the Sun again, but they're going to come back and be part of the drive for 3 in a row, but they're away now for a prolonged period of time, because the AFLW season is longer as well.
Yes, it is. And also, I watched some of the game. I don't think the standard is as good. It's not. It's a totally different game, right? So Vicky is quite a combative player, okay, and the way she moves. But she's going to get someone now who's marking her, who can tackle her around the show and bring her down to the ground. That's a completely different thing than what she faces every week. Like, she's an unbelievable player. She's a very strong player. I'm sure she will be a standout and a star over there. But you know, I would fear as well, because to a certain degree the players are protected in the game here. You know, the referees will not allow certain things to go on, which is good. In the Aussie rules I watched, it seems to be all fair and love and war. You know, there's girls being pounded on the ground, there's tackles after the ball. I don't know if the standard of refereeing or even the officiating is where it should be. It's a different sport. So you're coming in from a sport where you've grown and played it since 5 or 6 or 7 years of age. You're used to the shall we say, the terms of contact, and now you're coming into something else that's completely different, and she's going to be marked. She's going to be, here comes this Irish girl coming over with a big name who thinks she can be, you know, kind of coming onto the ball fast, being combative. Well, we'll match her. So I hope it works out for them. I'm kind of, again, so I've asked some people, why would you do it? Some people have said, well, you know, they get paid and it's semi-professionalism. And I'm saying, well, it's hardly for the money. It's not enormous money. You know, surely they could get looked after here for something relative to the same, not being paid, but if they needed a job or whatever it was, surely the resources could be put in here. So then someone else said to me, well, you know, you're training and playing like a professional. Okay, I can take that argument. You know, you'll be within the confines of the professional or semi-professional kind of era. You'll
it's
have
like
all
Melbourne
of that
and
around
Brisbane
you.
are a nice place to live.
Yeah, they are. But, you know, at the same time,
She's won 2 All-Irelands.
she's won 2 All-Irelands, right? Like, Meath is absolutely buzzing at the moment with those girls. Like you can't get much higher, bar you go again. And what I mean is that the sport is now on a massive trajectory. And someone has allowed 2 or 3 or 4, there's been lots of girls, to be ripped out of that sport. So you basically have gone, well, we're going to cherry pick the best and we're just going to rip them out. So the standard has to drop. And at the same time, when people aspire and young girls or, you know, boys see whatever it is and they look up and they say, well, these are the stars. Those stars are not there anymore. And I just don't know if what they're going to is even as a package is as good as what they're leaving. Yeah. You know, I can see the men going to Australian rules, absolutely, right, because, you know, there's an awful lot of resources put in around that. Like, the grand final had I can't remember who played in it, but the grand final had an attendance of 21,000. Like, there's 27 million people in Australia, right? And they had 21,000 at the women's grand final. There was 46 or 47,000 in Croke Park last week. There was there was 25,000-30,000 Meath people there.
Our national broadcaster, and it's like, it has a bland story. Vicky Wall looking forward to next chapter in Australia. That's the headline. Top story in the entire sports section in terms of being read. That's where we're at with this sport. Like,
yeah,
it's mad.
It's mad. Yeah. And what could you do, Johnny, with it? You know, and the fear is that you're talking about, you know, the women's, which is be seen, all of that. Well, absolutely. Well, like, I mean, start it here. So someone should be taking a hold in the LGFA and saying, listen, hold on a second. We have a brain drain. We have a talent drain here going on. And we have to stop this. Why is this being allowed to happen? Could Vicky Wall not train in a semi-professional status here in Ireland? Could the best players not say, well, listen, you know, you're going to work or you're going to college or whatever it is, but we're going to put the resources around you to really enhance the game and to enhance you as a player? Because it's never been as popular. Right, it has never been, and it's inspiring girls. And
they're scratching the surface in terms of across the country how big this could be.
I think
several counties are miles behind where they could be. Like,
but actually, Johnny, do you know what? Like, I know this might sound completely fanciful, but it's a sport that actually you could really move into other countries, like women and girls, and like I see the basketball thing and the growth of the basketball through my wife, and you know, it's a fantastic game. And it's a quick moving game, but it's only 5 still on a court, right? And they're tight panels. This is 15, 20, 25 girls. You can see the camaraderie with the teams. You can see what it means to, I think, the girl from Laois.
Ashton Donner. Amazing story.
But you can see with the camaraderie with that group. You know, and girls, when they leave school, you know, lads, you go 18, you generally fall into the GAA club or soccer club or the rugby club or whatever it is. But girls at a certain age, there's not a whole pile for them to get in touch with and stay involved with, and to really get that sense of togetherness. And this is something which has obviously plenty of athleticism, it has kicking, it has catching, it has all those different things, and it isn't a sport that's going to necessarily hurt you. Do you know what I mean? There's physicality, and they want physicality.
I think that's where Eamon's comments are a little bit they're wide of the mark, because I've said this for years. If I had kids, I would not let kids play rugby, like, not at all, but there's no way if I had a boy or girl, and surely we should be treating them as the same thing here now. You know, my sister played inter-county for Galway. I've been to loads of the games. They do not want a lack of physicality. They want physicality. And let's treat them as athletes.
100%, John. Absolutely, 100%. Like, I mean, you can't give one and not give the other. You know, you can't say, well, that's okay, but actually, hold on a second, because that is not equality. You know, so you have to say, well, this is a sport. The sport demands that. Like, I mean, my niece is over with Leinster. She's the Leinster under-18 captain. Actually, they've gone to England just over the next few days playing rugby, and like, she's an out half, and she's played Gaelic, she's played, and like as she was saying, like, I mean, the tackling and all that is a big thing for them. You know, they like, I mean, it's a part of what they do, and you have to learn the skills, and it's a skill of the game. So tackling in GAA and, you know, avoiding hits, it's a skill of the game. You know, you're not saying you're just ploughing through people, because that just won't work. You'll get punished for it. So, but the game itself, you know, I think it's too easy of an acceptance. You know, that they're just, they're going to head to Australia. I think there has been too many, and I'm not just saying this because of the Meath girls, the Tipperary girl who went.
They've been very effective as well.
You know, there's just, I just think that if I ranked both of them, I'd say, okay, better attendances at ladies' games here. Seems to be a higher level of promotion for it. It seems to be better officiated. The skill level and the ability is far in excess of what's over there. So you're kind of going, well, where do I want to be here? You know, like, which is the game that actually has probably more of a future? And as I said, not even only here. Like, I mean, it honestly could be a game that could push across, and, you know, all of a sudden you see girls in different teams. Like, look at the growth of men's GAA around the world. Like, I mean, it is a growing. You go to the diasporas and everything else. There's people playing it all over the place, and there's loads and loads and loads of, you know, expats and non-Irish playing it. Well, I tell you, women's ladies football could be exactly the same. Yeah. If it was really properly done.
Ironically, we mentioned climate change earlier on. Ireland will soon be a nicer place to live than Australia as well for the weather.
Yeah,
actually will be. Actually,
that is the spirit, Johnny Ward.